We are coming up to the second Sunday in April, and that can only mean one thing. It is the Head of the North, or Paris-Roubaix.
I cannot believe it has come around so quickly. One of the best races of the year. After last weekend, undoubtedly one or two classic specialists are going to be out to make amends, as will we, looking to make amends after last week's frankly woeful showing in our GCN predictions.
Yeah, we have come to Raphael's restaurant in Bath to do our big GCN preview of Paris-Roubaix. We'll be looking into the course of 2019 and we'll be naming pretty much every rider just to cover our backs. Before we get to that part though, we're going to take a quick look back at what happened 12 months ago. There, Peter Sagan launched a massive attack with 56 kilometres still remaining, leaving the rest of the favourites basically looking at each other and immediately knowing that they were fighting for second place on the day. Only they weren't, because Sylvain Dillet, one of the remnants of the early breakaway, was still able to hang on with Peter Sagan, only to get out-sprinted at the velodrome at the finish. Third place on the day went to Niki Terpstra, but Peter Sagan became the first rider in the rainbow jersey to win at Paris-Roubaix since Bernardino back in 1981. Terpstra, though, won't be racing this year because he's still recovering from concussion from the Tour of Flanders last week.
Watching that has already got me super excited. So without further ado, let us get on to this year's race, which is actually the 117th edition of Paris-Roubaix, starting as it has done since 1977 in Compiègne. Not Paris, that's 89 kilometres further south. The race itself is 257 kilometres long and it finishes at the velodrome in Roubaix.
Or the velodrome André Pitrou.
Bless you.
Thank you, to give it its proper name. Anyway, win this race and you will elevate yourself to the status of cycling legend or god. But perhaps even more importantly, you're never going to have to buy a beer again in that region if you win Paris-Roubaix.
Now that might need some explanation because to the casual observer, it might not look that hard given that there's hardly any climbing, but it is the pavé or the cobblestones that make this race as brutal as it is. And they can't be compared to anything else really. On the scale of cobblestone severity, these are off the scale. I mean, compared to Flanders last week, they're so much harder.
They are so much harder. You have to go and ride them to actually believe how hard they are, as I did last year, and even though I'd rode them before, I was thinking, these are unbelievable. Anyway, in total, there are 54.5 kilometres of cobbles this year, although interestingly, the first five-star sector of the race, the Trouet d'Arenberg, or the Forest of Arenberg, is actually 100 metres shorter than it used to be. It is obviously exactly the same length as it's always been, but ASO recently found out that it's 100 metres shorter than they thought it was. Interesting that modern measuring technology can show you these details.
Frankly, I hope they stop measuring stuff, Dan, just in case we find out that other iconic cycling roads are actually not as hard as we thought they were. Anyway, Arenberg is one of 29 cobblestone sectors that feature in this year's race. The first one is at Troisville and it comes after 96.5 kilometres of racing. Now, in other races, you will be used to seeing the climbs categorised depending on their severity. And in Paris-Roubaix, the same is true of cobblestones. The organisers rate them from 1 to 5, depending on how long they are and how rough the cobbles are.
That first one at Troisville is rated as 3 stars, as is the second one, and they've changed the name of that one actually, formerly known as Briast. This year it will be known as the Pavé sector Michael Golarts, and that of course after he sadly lost his life at that very sector this time last year. So a really nice tribute there from ASO, who have also erected a monument at the side of the road which you'll be able to see.
Now, as per usual, we would expect a breakaway to go relatively early in the race so that then the favourites can stay out of trouble and save their energy back in the peloton.
Although, Si, of all the one-day monuments, in fact, of all one-day races of the year, I would say that it's Paris-Roubaix that offers probably the most benefit to being in that early break, doesn't it?
Well, indeed. Sylvain Dillet, as mentioned, finished second in last year's race, having been in that early breakaway. The reason being is that although he'll have to spend a little bit more time in the wind, he would have had to have expended significantly less energy by not fighting for position at the beginning of every single cobblestone sector. And we saw that to great effect, didn't we? In 2016, Matt Hayman's legendary victory, he too had been part of that early breakaway. Although you've got to say on that day, it wasn't a particularly early break because it took 100 Ks to go.
No, well that is the byproduct of the fact that there are more riders looking to get into that early breakaway and stronger riders too. So we can see a hell of a lot of attacking before one is finally allowed to go up the road.
Yeah, it's one race where you probably want to see every single kilometre, don't you? just in case. Anyway, back to the course now, and the first 4-star sector of cobbles comes at Kievi after 111.5 kilometres. That's swiftly followed by Saint-Piton, which actually makes its return to the race this year. Then that too is swiftly followed by an all-new sector, this time Saint-Vaast.
Great French accent, mate. That last one that's just been put in, I don't think from my research is particularly hard, as opposed to the Forest of Arenberg, which comes at 96.5 kilometres to go. As mentioned, that's the first 5-star sector of the race each year. I don't know how to describe it. I've ridden it a few times, and yet when I went back last year, I couldn't believe how hard it was, and that was arriving at 30 k's per hour. I was quite frightened. I can't imagine what it's like to arrive in the Pavé bunch at about 60 kilometres per hour. That beggars belief.
Yeah, good job your legs won't let you go any faster than 30 k's an hour these days. It's perhaps could be described a little bit like in medieval times, someone drove a cart full of rocks through a forest, and unfortunately, the back of the cart was open, and those rocks just fell out. And then when they got to the end of it, they thought, check it out, we've made a road.
Yeah, that'll do.
And then that's what we've got now, 800 years later.
By the end of the Forest of Arenberg, you can expect most of the pre-race favourites to be somewhere towards the front if they haven't succumbed to some sort of bad luck. And if they have, and they've fortunately managed to get back on their bikes, they haven't got long to ready themselves for the next sector, because just 4 kilometres separates the end of the Arenberg from the start of the next one, after which they start to come thick and fast.
They do indeed. Fast forward a little bit to the next 5-star sector. That's Mont-Pavé, and it comes after 208.5 kilometres, so less than 50 k's to go to the finish, remember. Then the third and final 5-star sector is the Carrefour de l'Alpe, which is just 17k from the finish. Now, this isn't so much a launch pad to victory, is it? But it's certainly the place where we see those do-or-die efforts. And it's my highlight of the whole race, I think. After that, 3 more sectors, Grusom M, and then the kind of ceremonial 300 metres of like fake pavé in Roubaix itself before a lap and a half of that famous velodrome.
Which seems like it should be the most simplest part of the race, a couple of laps of the velodrome, doesn't it? But actually, it can be quite tricky if you haven't got a background in track pedigree.
Poor Fabian Cancellara fell off on it, didn't he? On his
celebratory
retirement lap.
Yes.
Let's get on to contenders then, shall we? Starting with Pierce again?
Well, we're going to have to, because somewhat amazingly, he is the bookies' favourite to win the race this coming Sunday. Now, I say somewhat amazingly because he's definitely not looked himself to me over the cobbled classic season, barring perhaps Gent Wevelgem. But Sunday in Flanders in particular, he looked a notch, shall I say, below where he'd normally be at. That said, the best odds that you can get for him are 4-1, whereas the next 3 favourites are all 12-1. Quite a difference.
Yeah. Can I guess who they are?
Go on.
Van Avermaet.
Yes.
Yeah. Another form winner, John Degenkolb.
Yeah, you've got all 3 winners actually there. Those are the only 3 form winners on the start line: Sagan, Van Avermaet and Degenkolb.
Okay. On current form, you've got to say Christoph.
Yes, nailed it. You've been doing your research.
Not research, it's just innate.
Yeah, I thought that might be the case. Anyway, of all of the people that we just mentioned, I have to say that Alexander Kristoff poses the biggest threat for Sunday's win.
Great.
Interestingly, he's never finished better than 9th at Roubaix before, which I'd say is interesting because I'd say all the classics, it's this one that suits him the best. But he's been in incredible form, hasn't he? Won Gent Wevelgem, then won the sprint for 3rd place at Flanders last Sunday.
Yeah, it'd be good to see him do well here, wouldn't it? Now, incredibly, we have got 4 predictions in to a Cobble Classics preview show, and we've yet to mention anyone from De Koning Quickstep. Perhaps because they were, slightly off form last weekend, only managing to salvage 2nd place at the Tour of Flanders, would you believe? Yeah. Their saving grace being the young Dane Kasper Asgreen, who, to be fair, was absolutely phenomenal, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Like, putting in so much work on the front and still managing to get away from that group of favourites in the finale to finish 2nd. Fantastic. His teammates at Roubaix are going to be Stibar, who you'd think probably this race is made for, but he maybe wasn't quite showing the form that we'd expect at Flanders. Gilbert, of course, and Lampert. Bob Jungels is not going to be on the start line. He's citing fatigue, so he's resting up. And then Asgreen himself.
Yes, a strong lineup, no doubt about that, but I wouldn't put them out as clear favourites for the race this year. Although that said, I don't think I'd have any single rider as a clear favourite.
No.
We'll rattle off some more to save our backsides again. We've got the cyclocross prodigy, that is Wout van Aert on the start line for Jumbo-Visma. His placing last year was 13th in his debut, and he'll be looking to improve on that, of course, and you wouldn't put that past him given how he's looked so far this year. And he'll have ample backup from his team, including a very informed Danny van Poppel.
That's right. EF Education first. got to name them, haven't they? Alberto Bettiol, after last week's incredible win at Flanders, he is not going to be on the start line. He's going to be resting up before Amstel.
But we wanted to mention his name in the preview this week anyway.
That's right. Bettiol will not be on the start line. To be fair, knowing our predictions, he'll probably be a late starter.
Well, at least we've mentioned him if he is.
Good point. Bettiol, if he takes the start line, he's definitely going to be a favourite.
Yeah.
No, more so, Sepp van Mark from EF. He did some amazing work for Bettiol at Flanders, didn't he? I mean, given he's not been on his bike all that much through injury.
Yeah, he did well.
He was competitive late into the race, and he's got prior form at Roubaix, finishing second before. Twice he's finished fourth, and he's got a sixth as well on his palmarès.
He's not the only one on the team with some previous at this race either. Sebastian Langevel was third a couple of years ago.
And he was looking good.
He was. And then there's Taylor Phinney, who's been specifically targeting this race. He was 8th last year, and as you said, they're going to be on a high after last Sunday, so watch out for EF Education first.
From high to sky now, Luke Rowe, Ian Stannard and Dylan van Baal all look to be going well, ably backed up, you'd think, by Gianni Moscon. They had a Flanders to forget, quite frankly. Actually, if we're being really frank, they've had a cobbled classic season to forget, haven't they? But anyway, Sunday is their last chance, and I wouldn't write them off.
No. They've actually got some new tech at their disposal on Sunday in Paris-Roubaix. We've got an exclusive... Well, I don't know if it's exclusive or not, but we've got a video about that coming up on GCN, so stay tuned for that.
Just lower the expectations, Dan.
Trek Segafredo have got a few cars to play. We've already mentioned former winner John Degenkolb, but they've got Edward Schoens as well as Mads Pedersen and Jasper Stuyven at their disposal too. Age2R will be looking to Oliver Naesen to be at the helm for their team. But let's not forget Dillier, who was second last year, even Steen Vandenberg actually, who came close to a very good result a few years back before he was taken out by a spectator.
That's right. Oh, that was awful, wasn't it? Then who else we got? Lotto Soudals, Thijs Benoot. You'd have to say Niels Pollitt.
Tish. I've been told off for that before.
Tish?
Yeah, bless you.
Niels Pollitt, 5th at Flanders last weekend. That was a ride, wasn't it? And then, according to Pro Cycling Stats, starting for the first time ever at Paris-Roubaix, Matej Mohoric and Sonny Colbrelli. It's interesting, isn't it?
This is one about Colbrelli because he normally targets Amstel Gold, so skips Paris-Roubaix, but we'll wait and see whether he does start on Sunday.
And not a descent on the entire parcours for Matej Mohoric.
No. So it's going to be hard for him to get into his normal tuck position, isn't it?
I wouldn't want to see him at Arenberg doing that.
No. Anyway, is there anyone else we've not mentioned quite a few people, Si? I'm going to just start.
Let's not leave anything to chance, Dan. We've got time on our side,
yes.
So make yourselves comfortable.
Right, number 152, Damien Godin. Number 153, Roman Cardis. 154, Pim Lichtart.
He's at outside bet.
155, Alexander Pichot. Number 212, Dimitri Claes. 213.
Yeah, outside bet.
214, Damien Touzé. And then the final rider on the start list, the Dutchman Bram Velten of Team Arceus Samsic.
There we go. Well done, mate.
Cheers.
Bases well covered. Now, before we get on to predictions, we need to factor in one last thing, don't we? The weather. What is the forecast?
I've looked at the long-term forecast. We're recording this on Tuesday, and it says it's going to be sunny and dry again for the umpteenth time in a row. Last wet one was in 2001 when Servais Knaven won. And I, for one, am quite relieved about that forecast because I just think that if we get the wet and muddy Roubaix that so many people are looking for, it could be career-ending for a couple of riders because those cobbles are just so dangerous, even in the dry.
It's an interesting, wasn't it? I totally agree with you. And now we've gone so long without a wet Roubaix, I'm kind of, the anticipation's got so much. I, too, am kind of shying away from it. But there is a part of me that thinks that maybe it's the rider's responsibility to look after themselves. If you know that pavé is going to be slippery as the eels, then you just have to factor in and slow down accordingly, don't you? Rather than maybe just going in at 60k an hour to trade Arenberg.
I am of the opinion that riders need protecting from themselves sometimes because all you're thinking about is getting a result, doing a job for your team, and often safety of yourself doesn't come into the equation.
But surely you're not doing a job for the team if you stack it on a wet, slippery
I don't want to
corner.
fall out about this, mate. Should we get on to predictions?
Yeah, that's a safe bet.
Feeling the pressure of the predictions this week, Si, after last week's.
To be fair, mate, there's no pressure on us. I don't think anyone expects anything.
No, well, it's going to get better, isn't it, than last week, hopefully. Right, my prediction for the win on Sunday. I'm going to go a bit left field, actually, for this one. It is Lotto Soudal's Jens Kerkelere.
We haven't even mentioned him yet. What's that about?
That is partly why I've chosen him. I did remember that we'd forgotten to mention Jens Koke. But actually, if you look back through his results over the last few weeks over the cobbles, he's been incredibly consistent. I just think he might pull off a surprise on Sunday.
Yeah?
Who are you going for?
This is heart, not head. Wout van Aert. I think this might be a race too far for him, given he's had an entire cross season and he's been so good for the spring. But wouldn't it be amazing? I mean, I love seeing cyclocross racers smashing it on the road, and he does look at home on the cobbles.
I think it'd be a great story if he won. I don't think there's anyone that would not like to see Wout van Aert win, to be perfectly honest. Whilst on the subject, though, of cyclocross stars, we should say that Mathieu van der Poel isn't going to be racing Paris-Roubaix. When he said that he was going to do a lot of road races in the spring, he said his targets were Flanders and then Amstel Gold, which is, of course, his home classic. So he won't be on the start line on Sunday.
It's a shame.
It is a shame, but what do you do when you can win every single race? You've got to skip something, haven't you?
I don't know, mate. I've never had that problem.
No, neither have I. But anyway, in the interest of safety and numbers, we thought we'd ask the other presenters what their predictions for Sunday were.
I've come to the Arenberg Trench to give my prediction. There's Katusha doing some recon. And I'm going to say John Degenkolb, because I think there's a lot of closely matched riders this year. And I think it's going to be a diminished bunch at the end. And I think he can be in there, at which point he's got an amazing sprint. I think he can do it. Plus, he's a past winner.
Maya, who is your favorite for Paris-Roubaix?
I think Greg Van Avermaet is going to win. For you, Jojo?
For me, Alexander Kristoff.
My prediction for the Paris-Roubaix winner this year, well, it's got to be Greg Van Avermaet. No, I think I'm going to go for Sagan. I'm going to go for Peter Sagan.
Well, one thing's almost certain, Dan. We can't lose with that lineup of predictions, surely.
We can. We'll wait and see on Sunday.
Yeah, all right. Now, special treat if you live in Canada and the USA. On Sunday, you can get half an hour of race highlights with Lloydie and Juan Antonio Fletcher as our special guest over on GCN Racing's Facebook page. How cool is that?
It is cool, yeah. And we're also hoping to have input from Magnus Bagstedt if his internet connection in the Netherlands, where his daughter's racing, is strong enough. Who's, of course, won Paris-Roubaix in the past, so it could be quite the lineup.
Absolutely.
He and Juan Antonio.
That's it. And don't forget as well, if you're in Europe, that Eurosport will have the race live. And you should definitely tune in. As we said, it's the one race, isn't it, to watch and savour every kilometre.
Yeah, if you can't watch every kilometre, make sure you tune in from 96 k's to go, where the Arenberg Forest really starts to kick things off. All right, well, we hope you have enjoyed our preview of Paris-Roubaix this year. If you have, give it a thumbs up, which you'll find just down below. Never know exactly how to say that. If you'd like more Paris-Roubaix content, though, Cy, a couple of years ago, looked into what the fastest bike was over the Carrefour de l'Arve Cols, and the results were quite surprising, weren't they?
They were indeed. Yeah,
Find
make sure
out
you check that one out.
Just down here.